The Poet's Curse by Shane Levene. I feel it so profoundly that it comes through me as a sadness. But it is not a sadness, it's a beauty so dramatic of all the sensations whipped upon me. It feels close to an insanity, even the most perfect insanity or the most cursed. And I see it and feel it and smell it in all things, in every step and every breath and every shattered day or brilliant morning. It's in brick and concrete and metal and flaking paint, in leaves and bush and trees and plant. I come across it in the shade of hidden places, amongst the tiny European lizards that dart upon the wall and scurry down into the undergrowth. It is on the wet of dogs' noses and in the smell of their coats, sheen or soiled. It romances me in piss and beer-soaked telephone booths as I'm carried away on the whiff of metal and polished copper and coin. It's in the methadone clinics, the hospitals, in the cancer patients who stand outside, held up by IV drips, smoking and looking so wistfully at the dew dying in the grass. It's in the crunch underfoot and the chafing of fabric on fabric, in gravel and snow and ice, in car tyres scrunching over grit. It's in the wild of overflowing gardens, in rose bushes in early autumn. It's in the long shadows of first summer days, in the haze of the distant roar and city spray, where the now feels like a memory, and you smelled of fresh soap and water, and it was something more than sex and skin and blood. I hear it in the sounds of builders and cries from up on high, in the afternoon drilling and the clink of scaffolding poles. It's in the dust and slop of freshly mixed cement and, way up high, in the isolation of great cranes stranding the devastating blue of the sky. I smell it in the molten tar when the roads get relaid, in the uncovered bottles of tincture and ointment in Victorian dumps and Roman fairs and paths. It's in rusted rakes and spiders' webs and sodden pines and cones and leaves, in the treated wood of garden fence and dampened earth and mossy stones. I feel it in pine needle lawns, in small southern Italian towns, in the sand and ruins of Pompeii and stretched out across the Bay of Naples. In the ghettos of Mermoz Pinel and Villeurbanne, and far into the distance yonder, Grenoble, and then off to nowhere in early dreams of Europe and fiesta and dancing all around. In the scent of old books and printed ink, the words themselves are blood in me, and I've only ever looked at them in Georges Bataille and Dirty, gazing out at London, we almost wept. In cherry blossom snow and terraced housing and fragrant streets, in parked cars exhausted under the beating sun, in sap and milky grass as great days blow in, and the city is a bustle and the radio says its clear skies across a beautiful London town. In the bushes, in the thickets, in the tramped and trodden porno mags, on Hampstead Heath in bodies fucking through the trees. And you wanted to swim in the lake while from the hill I watched the suburbs, and we rolled in the glade and hooked ourselves on Scottish thistles while they screamed and splashed and sprayed. In the alien nights in Soho, in the acrid smell of amphetamine, in the smoky bar of the intrepid fox, in the broken bottles and indiscriminate violence, in the faces gashed by jagged glass. In the spoon, in the cook, in the drawer, in the pin, in the passion for life and desire for death, in wide open eyes, in your desperate climax, in the soft of your breath, in our myth and obsession alone on the bridge, in the black scorch of river which snakes through the heart of this murderful town, past a point where I said, so leave if you can, in I'll walk you some more, in the arrival too soon, in the decision to sleep, holding each other on the bench in the common, in the freeze of the night, in the healing of wounds and the beautiful trauma of young damaged lives. In the cafes, in the coffee, in the stir, in the cup, in the harsh bite of winter, in the sulphuric night of Millennium Eve, when the world came together and life was no good. It runs through me as a sadness, but it's not a sadness, it's a beauty which clings on, stalked me around Europe and European towns, and left me scream for quit into the polluted foreign air. It arrived one morning and stood standing 5'9" outside the Perras railway station. In the bare room of the Saint Michel Hotel it was there. It lay with us in the carved wooden bed, lingered in the melancholy of deep night. It flickered outside the window in the blue neon gas of the vacancy sign, illuminated briefly her sexual fantasies of sirens and bullets, wept as she narrated the story of our failed heist. Hold up suicidal, awaiting the loudspeaker and armed police, 2 people dead and 2 more to follow. It drifted out those cheap black market cigarettes, twirled like ribbon and dissipated in the dark. It sat warm in the earliest boulangeries and cafes, could be found in the fumes of the 6 a.m. Pernod of the loneliest bars. It rang out from the church every hour and was in the funeral knell of the Sunday afternoons. Oh my love, let me ruin your life for just one more day. But she was gone, and it resided so terribly in the gone. Oh, it came and it pulled out of me as a sadness. It came through youth and I didn't know what it was. It was there in my sick bed during long fantastic days off school, came in on the drone of helicopters and the mid-afternoon screams and whistles from the schoolyard opposite. It passed by the window as a millipede of children, cruel and unruly, looking in and laughing, and it's made its way down to the local swimming baths. It was in the smell of chlorine, in prune skin and warts and verrucas, in the hideous stench of changing rooms and sour milk, humid feet and prepubescence. It was in me then, and I don't remember a time when it was not. It roared by in the whoosh of freedom, expanded in my eardrums as I freewheeled downhill for life. Come each dusk I would feel it, would stare out as the sun collapsed and the city died, would want to cry over nothing I could fathom. It came in with history and it overwhelmed me and made me mute. And those were the first lashes from the whip, and it was in the whip and in the lash and in the rhythm and the meter and the crack and the yelp of youth. It circled by overhead in the traumatic squawkings of seagulls, sounded in the high winds and Arctic skies. It frothed out from my mother's mouth in the back of an ambulance and spread out in the bruises across her chest in intensive care. It comes through ugly and then turns beautiful, comes beautiful and ugly again. On a terrible night I wrote. It was the first time and it made me ill and she nursed me better. It was in me then and in the bright cold healthy morning. I woke up freshly damned and I wanted nothing more.